So welcome to the next in our online series of messages brought to you by the friends at First Church Raleigh. This is Reverend Tom Bentley, the pastor, hoping these messages help you in your journey of life. If you'd like to know a little bit more about First Church Raleigh, there'll be some information for you at the end of this video. So thank you again for spending time with us. So grace and peace to you from our friend Jesus. I think I was 18 when I first saw the picture of Mahatma Gandhi's personal belongings the day he died. Here they are. It's amazing he had so much power, so much spiritual power, as well as political power. He forced the British to give up India and allow it to be a free nation. Just this simple man with almost no belongings, as that photo shows. This simple man, a man of pure heart and an intense vision. Jesus in the gospel encounters a young ruler who has lots of wealth, and the young ruler wants to follow him. And when Jesus listens to him and how he understands the law, he says, "You have it right, except you have to give up everything you own if you want to follow me." It is confusing to own things, to have wealth when so much of the world is poor and suffering in abject poverty. What do? Do we have to give up everything that we own in order to be anywhere near close to what our divine Creator calls us to be? I suggest that is not the case unless all these things that we own is somehow in the way of the presence of God's grace. We have to measure that. Jesus was trying to explain this to his followers in the Gospel of Luke. Let's see what he says. Speaking to the people, he went on, "Take care, protect yourself against the least bit of greed. Life is not defined by what you have, even when you have a lot." Then he told them a story. The farm of a certain rich man produced a terrific crop. He talked to himself, "What can I do? My barn isn't big enough to hold this harvest." Then he said, "Here's what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll gather in all my grain and goods, and I'll say to myself, 'Self, you've done well. You've got it made and can now retire. Take it easy and have the time of your life.' Just then God showed up and said, 'Fool, tonight you die, and your barn full of goods, who gets it?' That's what happens when you fill your barn with self and not with God." The spiritual writer Ronald Rolheiser writes, "The God of the Incarnation is more domestic than monastic." And what does he mean by that? He means that God is present in the world, and we are too. Something separates ourselves from the divine. And yeah, a lot of the time it's stuff, but when we really look at the story Jesus tells, it isn't so much that stuff in the barn was in the way, it was the control of the man who owned it. He wanted control. He wanted control over his life, the flow of events. Yes, he wanted to gratify himself. Yes, he wanted to make himself comfortable and happy. He wanted to feed his body and his ego too with this control. Richard Rohr, a Franciscan teacher, he says, "There are three things we have to let go of. The first is the compulsion to be successful. Second is the compulsion to be right, especially theologically right. That's merely an ego trip, and because of this need, churches split in half with both parties prisoners of their own egos. Finally, there is a compulsion to be powerful, to have everything under control." Control. We have a lot of stuff. We follow our gratifications to make ourselves happy. We want to be in control. Again, Ronald Rolheiser writes, "Without making any moral judgments whatsoever, one can say that self-indulgence and excessive self-preoccupation are the antithesis of genuine awareness. The antithesis of genuine awareness. Stuff, ego, obsession with self, gratification, greed, all those things dull our awareness, make us things rather than living souls in the mystery of life. Jesus invites us to break out, to not imprison ourselves with the stuff that we have, the ego that we build up with that stuff, all to be in control, but to let ourselves go into the mystery of this life, into the risk of love, into the grounding of affection, into relationship, which is always a challenge, but always changing, the life side of life. Again, I've really found Ronald Rolheiser a helpful writer, and he says, the incarnation began with Jesus and it has never stopped. God takes on flesh so that every home becomes a church, every child becomes the Christ child, and all food and drink become a sacrament. God's many faces are now everywhere, in flesh, tempered and turned down so that our human eyes can see him. Yes, the domestic moment of the ordinary is the extraordinary, the spiritual connection. All that we have in our life is not all ours to own and control. All that we have is a gift, a mysterious gift that is often well blessed by giving much of it away, but also just being present to it in deep gratitude. No, we're not all asked to have just a couple of earthly possessions when we die, because, let's face it, as Jesus' story about the farmer goes, we can't take any of it into the mysterious realm that follows our living presence. In this incarnation, in this enfleshment of reality, I love this idea that it's ongoing, that it's still happening, that we participate in each moment sacramentally and partaking of grace right now, anywhere, anyhow, as long as we don't seek to be in control. So what in your life is in the way of letting go? What kinds of controls in your life have you put yourself into such that this incarnation, this vital living relationship to spiritual truth and connection, to love and affection is somehow blunted? It's blunted for all of us. All of us want to be in control. Every day is another sacramental giving up of that control and seeing the blessed miracle in the most commonplace, in the place wherever we are, with whatever there is, no matter who owns it, so to speak. If only our ego can let go, then we can be taken up and received by the one who loves us. So thank you for spending time with us. We hope this message was helpful. If you'd like to know more about the First Congregational Church of Raleigh, you can go online at firstchurchraleigh.org. And of course, we'd always like to hear from you. You can call us anytime at 978-948-3993. So peace and best wishes. Goodbye.